passing the Etten, Njormann and reckless Bandon have finally managed to start making their way up the mountain. The snow blows and the ice forms around their shoes as they get higher and higher up. Clouds swirl around the ruined buildings that pepper the mountain. Little watchtowers. Reckless Bandon points out, these were built by the giants back in the ages ago. That's what they say, at least. Something has made the journey seem awfully quiet. The recent warpath that came down the mountain has cleared out any local wildlife. As they walk up the mountain, they hear in the distance a howl. The distinctive howl of a dire wolf.
Not a dire.
The dire wolf! Welcome to Challenge Raiders. It's the show where we talk about a D&D monster, we give it a rating out of 20 while I draw it. My name's Theo.
I'm Neil, social media manager.
And I'm Sam, terrified of dire wolves.
As you should be, Sam.
Exactly.
But the dire wolf is no ordinary wolf.
It's a large wolf.
It's dire. It is large. It's not medium, unlike the regular wolf. That's basically the difference.
That's the most interesting thing about it.
No.
No, it has some other things. It does have some other things, just about. Anyway, okay. For some reason, yeah, well, we can cover wolf while we're here, I think, to be honest.
Are you sure we're going to have time?
Oh, Jesus.
We're covering a lot of things from the back of the book, like Bandit and Bandit Chief.
It's all in that extra thing. But yeah, Wolves Attack is like classic D&D adventure, early on, starting stuff. You're out, you make a camp at night, and then your party doesn't take watches. What happens?
Yeah, exactly. Every fantasy game has got wolves. Got wolf? But like, fighting in D&D takes a while. So like, if you're just going to use a regular wolf attack, then that's not necessarily the most exciting thing on Earth. Because wolf has, regular wolf, not much health, and not much damage. Who cares? So what you do is you throw in a dire wolf to make it a little bit more exciting, because it's a big wolf. Gosh.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what we've talked about. We've talked about encounter design a bit on the show.
Yeah.
And I think a direwolf is one of those great creatures for that, because it doesn't just fit into the wolves attack, it also fits into the pet of the bandits, or the pet of the orcs
or something. Yeah.
Having a large wolf creature just in any of those encounters, or spicing up a wolf encounter, having more than one enemy type is good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
diversification
sure.
of enemies is, good thing.
A direwolf also, as a large creature, can serve as a mount for a medium creature.
Oh, yeah.
Which is also pretty cool. So that is actually pretty cool.
It could be a mount for a more interesting character, almost.
Yeah, more or less.
Everybody understands immediately what a wolf is.
Yes.
And if you have like a not especially high fantasy setting, then
low fantasy.
Exactly. So if you've got a
Sorry.
Quite right. It's all right. Yeah, my bad. I have that habit of using too many words when I could just. I've got to get Grammarly for my voice. Anyway, I'm just having a low fantasy thing. You can use a direwolf because it is, in fact, and of course, in real life, it was a real animal. The direwolf, a prehistoric big wolf, essentially. But in terms of what it actually does, do you want to talk about its like actions while I draw this?
Well, it bites people. That's obviously what it does. But there's something that wolves do in D&D, which they've done for editions and editions, and that's that they trip people up.
Right.
So whenever a wolf attacks, basically in D&D, particularly the direwolf we're talking about right now, you have to make a strength saving throw, be knocked over.
Yeah.
So imagine
it's pouncing on you.
Yeah, it charges you, pounces you, or much like dogs when you watch them in police training.
Oh yeah, so grabs a leg and
starts tugging you down.
Okay, that's fun.
And basically, like I think from most editions of D&D, this has been a thing. And of course, they have pack tactics. Yep. So you get a horde of wolves that swarm you and start knocking you to the ground and.
Yeah. So have we done anything that's had pack tactics? I don't think we have.
I think we did Kobold.
Did Kobold have pack tactics? Well, briefly, pack tactics means if there's two of them fighting one thing next to each other, then they get advantage.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
very strong. It makes their meager plus to hit a lot more concerning.
Yeah. And I think if you're not playing with the flanking optional rule, I think it could be quite interesting because again, most animals, depending on how smart they are, either like fight alone or are not going to be fighting super smartly. So giving the wolf and the direwolf, because all the wolves have pack tactics, having the direwolf have that makes them a little bit more interesting than just something that hits you, because it's like, oh, it's hitting you, but it's got its chums, so it's going to be harder to fight. So that's the thing. And
about the actual how pack tactics is written, it's not written like a war game, with other wolves in nearby, blah blah blah. It's written as just wolf's allies. So
right, okay.
A wolf fighting with its owner would be the advantage.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually kind of... I didn't know that. I kind of assumed it would be a pack thing, but again, I guess they are intelligent. A pack can be anything. It's just using its intelligence to fight a bit there. And they don't have good intelligence, but for like their cunning, I guess, is maybe what that's bringing across, as opposed to actually...
They're an effective predator.
Yeah. They do also have they have that keen hearing and smell. I see. So they have good. They have advantage on perception, basically, for hearing and smelling it. So they'll track you down. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's a very simple encounter to think of, like as you just described, that the wolves are stalking you.
Yeah.
And you can hear them, you can hint at them in the distance. And, I mean, we're talking about them also not being interesting, but when you think about, we live in England. And the idea of wolves attacking us while we camp is still alien to us.
Exactly. That's a fair point.
We're not expecting that.
There's not many terrifying creatures.
Yeah, I suppose people in like Poland probably have to have this fear.
Canada? They got wolves.
I think there's wolves out in Eastern Europe. I think.
Presumably.
Yeah, I think.
But yeah, the having a super wolf essentially makes that. It's a thing that maybe you can have like, hey, the regular wolves have been harassing like they do, but they're wolves. They're just dogs. A regular wolf has 11 HP, not anything to write home about. But then the direwolf has showed up. Look, there's direwolves around town. What's changed? Now there's a wolf which has 37 HP, that's quite a lot for like a Neil, you're playing what level are we currently?
I'm an 8th level wizard and I have 35 hit points.
Yes, you're playing a guy who's weaker than a direwolf in terms of hit points.
He would maul my character to death.
he just eat him. But like, it's so I think again it has that slight level of weirdness where it's something that you can indicate that something has changed. Obviously you could use it as part of the wildlife to have like super wildlife, that's fair enough, but I think the way I'd want to use a direwolf is like, because it is a familiar thing that's a little different, this is the sign that something is changing, which is always like a good catalyst for like a quest and adventure.
Something is coming down from the mountains or the highlands or whatever. Like,
what is it trading again?
It's generating 1, so for like a single creature, that there's not actually a lot of stuff which is like is generating 1 like that is meant to be fought in groups. Because again, a direwolf is never going to be something that you want one of, because it has that pack tactics, and you don't think of wolves as fighting alone necessarily.
And let's not forget that as well, in that encounter, it may not even be a direwolf for you. It could just be the alpha of a pack of wolves if you want to be super low level.
That's a really fair point, I think.
And just to touch on it, because we might get a comment on it, there is a more powerful wolf in the book.
That's true. Yes.
There is the winter wolf, which if you need a monstrous wolf, because it is literally a monstrosity, then there is that in the back.
We might do an episode of Winterwolf in theory, maybe. I think because it's too different.
I do actually completely think so, particularly when you look at languages.
Does it? Hey, we'll get into Winterwolf. Okay, we'll get into Winterwolf one day. And anyway, Winterwolf's interesting, but yeah, the direwolf it's a beast, large beast. There's not loads of beasts in the book. I guess the only other thing that's worth mentioning is it has proficiency in stealth. Again, it's a wolf. It's stalking after you. And when we were playing a little while ago now, we got ambushed by some wolves, and Neil, you couldn't tell us because you're a Kenku and you didn't have a way of shouting, "There's wolves," so we were just sort of walking along.
Yeah, it was also because of Sam's character kept trying to freak my character out as we were adventuring.
Yeah.
So he just took those other noises to be him.
Yeah, so it's just like, yeah. So surprise attacks jumping up, that's always fun. I do think that there's like better stuff for that.
Sure.
We've said before, again, an encounter is a big part of D&D. It's in time investment. It's a lot. If you're doing like a session that's a couple 5 hours long, you're not going to get through more than 2 or 3 things. And if you use one of them on fighting wolves, if there's no reason for it, it's just like, all right, fine. Especially if someone dies in that sort of a fight, it's just like, oh Jesus Christ, whoops.
That would be terrible.
Something which a name we have brought up before. Matt Koval has his orcs attack line. Where he says, if nothing's happening and the party are kind of getting stuck in circles, just have orcs attack. I think
that's a fair point.
I think that wolves are the same, kind of level of that. If you're out in the woods camping or you've got a puzzle, you can have wolves attack, and a direwolf makes it a bit more interesting.
And I think part of the use of that is as well is making the wilderness dangerous, not so they have to fight everything, but so they're encouraged to keep moving and keep doing stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have to want to deploy your direwolf encounter more than once, because the first time should make them go, okay, we should not spend 25 hours sitting outside this door checking it for traps every 6 seconds until we roll 20. Like, we should avoid that.
And also, we've been kind of thinking of solitary direwolves in encounters. But there is always the fact that you could use direwolf just as an up-leveled wolf later in a campaign.
That would be a tough thing.
Yeah, when you're out camping deep in a wilderness, like for days, or in a very hostile area, like maybe on the way to a vampire's castle because they attract large wolves and things like that. I think
a direwolf would be a very good like vampire lord, because if you put wolves around a vampire castle, then that's not. If you're appropriate level to fight a vampire lord, you will not really find much point in fighting regular wolves. But a pack of direwolves could actually be quite dangerous, because again, charge rating 1 is not a lot, but when it's in a large group, it's decent.
When you get 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
And they're going to be knocking people down.
Yeah,
particularly, maybe even dragging them,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Number-wise, I think it's low.
Yes.
Because it's a wolf.
It's a big dog.
Not... pack tactics is interesting, but it's not unique. Like, quite a few monsters have pack tactics.
Yep. And that's the only... that is kind of like one of the unique things about this monster, and it's not unique.
Yeah, it's not really unique.
The trip is quite unique.
Yeah, the pounce is good. I would say this is like... It's less than 10, but it's probably more than like 6.
Yeah.
I would say one of the things that I'm most confused about it is it's relatively high HP, but that's more just to make it level appropriate, as opposed to... Yeah, so,
If you think it was a boss for a group of level 1 players, and they're all dealing like 1d10, 1d8,
it'd be a couple of rounds.
Yeah,
potential. If they hit,
its AC is like a hit on a 50-50 with a 4+.
Yeah,
it would be a thing, but I wouldn't like that.
You would never think to use it is the thing, as a boss. No. You'd be crazy.
Tough encounter for level 2s maybe with smalls.
Yeah.
And I think, as you said, having it as the pet of the thing would be good. But in terms of what it actually is, I would say I don't really have like a strong feeling about a number, but I'm gonna like say 8 and see how we feel about 8.
Too high, honestly.
Too high?
I think more 7.
Yeah.
But, you know what? I think saying 8 out loud made me think. It didn't feel good. So I think 7.
Hearing 8 didn't feel. Yeah, I agree. They've got good utility, and I think you made a good point. Like in certain settings, they could be a more interesting monster. Like if you're doing like a proper low fantasy campaign.
Yeah.
Well, that suits you quite well. You can have them in pretty much any campaign that's set on like the material plane. They'll be there in a wood.
Yeah. Especially if it's like a semi-European kind of setting. Of course, there are big dogs all over the world. But we do have that kind of timber forest, snowy area. That's kind of the at least
Alpine
for me
region.
Yeah, that's what wolves kind of conjure to me. But
I'd like to say as well for wolves, because we kind of talked about wolves, honestly.
No, yeah.
Wolves are also a 7. I don't think they're less than this because they're used in conjunction. They're basically you can't have one without the other. Like you can have a regular wolf encounter, But wolves get better when used with direwolves, and direwolves get better when used with wolves.
You know, that's fair, and you can't... If you don't have wolves, then the direwolf is just a wolf. It needs to have wolves to make it, in context, dire.
Yeah, that's true.
And they get improved. They both get improved by each other so much. Like...
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, well, do you want to see... phase. Do you want to see the picture I've drawn of a direwolf?
Yes, I do, actually.
I'd like to see a direwolf picture.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it?
It would. Oh.
Different, stylistically changing things. I don't like drawing animals. Animals are hard. Dogs are like especially hard. So I just didn't. I just showed them cartoons.
I like the face of the one middle left.
Yeah, I like the angry boy. Yeah.
They're running up. But yeah, Norman's obviously he's getting a bit ahead of us. He's trying to jump this little crack, but yeah, I think they'll be fine, these two, for this fight.
I think they'll be able to handle it.
Yeah, but it's being knocked prone on like a ledge, that could be bad.
Oh,
they don't have pushing thing around, but depending on how your DM wants to roll it, maybe if you were to say like a narrow ledge is, if you get knocked prone there, then you have to make a further save to not start sliding down.
Yeah.
Could be quite scary.
I like the style of this one actually quite a bit.
I liked it more before I coloured it, but it was quicker to do than something that is more detailed but not as good looking. So I was happy to do this. For the more complicated scenes, I'll probably do some of this stuff. We'll see. I'm using the show as an excuse to try stuff differently every now and again, because what else should I do?
Why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
I like the little ruins as well. I like the swirls.
Well, I was about to say, yes. I think the direwolves, I don't know if they kill them. They probably what happens is the wolves get scared off. Maybe Reckless Bandon hits a few with his scimitar, and I think the flying sword probably dispatches a couple. What with it being a +3 flying sword, I think the direwolves retreat away. Again, beasts, they run away if you fight them good enough, or beat the alpha or whatever.
Goes flying off the mountain.
And looking up further up the mountain, Reckless Bandon and Njormann see little campfires burning in these watchtowers, usually empty and abandoned. Something has been moving in. Find out next time. We're going to take a break, though, for a bit. We've already taken a little break. We're going to take a little further break because it's Christmas. So Challenge Raiders will return in the new year.
Next decade.
Yeah, next decade. Yeah, 10 years.
See you all in a decade.
Yeah. I guess we should make some really good, funny jokes about direwolves and how join our wolf pack by subscribing.
I'm gonna be direct. Yeah,
oh, yeah?
Direct. I'm gonna be direct with them this time. Just comment, guys. Just do it.
Comment.
What have I got left? There's nothing left.
There's don't be. How about Laika the space dog and like.
I don't think we could reference Laika the space dog because dog is like a separate creature.
How about Laika the space wolf?
There we go.
Perfect.